to start? Just kind of what were your takeaways from Vegas?
It was a good tournament. And we kind of talked about going into it. Just we're going to get challenged, and we did. And it's just good to see guys getting better. And we had a lot of bonus points in that tournament, which are obviously big difference makers.
Those can often be times where guys get a little banged up. How health-wise are you guys coming out of it?
Good.
Wyatt obviously had a really good tournament for you guys. What did you see from him over the weekend?
It's just good to see him continue to improve. I just think from the beginning of the season till now, he's definitely starting to find his rhythm and his system. And those are some really good guys that he wrestled this weekend. And it was just good to see him continue to get better as the tournament went on.
What did Jameson show you?
Well, I just think Tegan's a guy that we really believe in Tegan, and I think this weekend slowly started to also believe in kind of things that we were talking to him about, and it's just good when you get that many matches in a row. You start to kind of I think in a dual meet you weigh in, you wrestle, you're off the mat. In a tournament you get to put up string them together, and he did that. And, I think he leaves that tournament feeling pretty good, but he's gonna have a tough task obviously right away this next weekend coming up, and just got to continue to stay focused and keep getting better. But obviously he's right there.
What did you think of Fish's kind of debut with the school?
It was good. Caleb he was excited to wrestle. And you could see that at every single match. He just was excited. He had a smile on his face, and he just ready to go out and take guys out. So just one match at a time. He was a couple forfeits towards the end, and he really wanted to wrestle those matches, and that's just obviously really good to see from a coach's standpoint. So just got to keep the momentum going.
Do you have to work his way down, or how is 157 for him?
It's been good. That was part of his plan this year. Was that he made it at the end of the year. It was made a little harder for him, but now he's just very disciplined. So this was actually relatively easy for him, and he performed really well.
I know you were kind of or you're saying you were unsure who you were going to wrestle at 157 a week ago. What made you go with Caleb?
He was in a red shirt, so it was just kind of up to him. Like, did he want to keep it or not? Kind of got a plan at the beginning of the year, and he was excited to wrestle. So that's what you want to see. As a coach, you want guys excited to go out and wrestle, and he did that and did a good job.
This, I guess so far into the season, anything surprise you about coaching or this team in general?
I just left this weekend, just feeling a sense of gratitude. Just obviously they're grateful to be here, be coaching these guys, but also just from the team. These moments of firsts are only first one time. So it's just been fun. Going through the dual meet processes. Going to the first tournament. And just sharing it with the guys and seeing them continue to get better. And as a staff, just as a staff, we're continuing to try and improve how we can and how we communicate with the guys, and how we can help make their lives, focus on being able to go out and do what they want to do and go out and wrestle. So it's just been, it's been a lot of fun so far.
Speaking of first, it's your first Bedlam coming up. What are you looking forward to about that?
Just competing. I think that's what's really nice about the season, and is just the rhythm of it. It's compete, recover, and train, get ready for the next tournament, next dual meet, and this will be obviously it's a big one for the state of Oklahoma, and just for fans of Oklahoma. So looking forward to going out and wrestling. It's nice that everywhere we've been so far, it's been a big crowd. Even in Vegas, everywhere we went, there was a massive contingent of Oklahoma State people. Just following from mat to mat and cheering the guys on. This weekend, suspect we'll have a lot, obviously there as well. So it's a pretty fun time for Oklahoma State wrestling.
You said, obviously growing up, you had a big admiration for OSU and wrestling in the state of Oklahoma. I'm curious, what was your perception of the rivalry when you were younger and just watching wrestling growing up?
Yeah, I just think it's just wrestling. As a kid, I just loved seeing the results, and back then the media and the TV and the streaming wasn't really a thing. So I remember watching it like results. Yeah. I remember getting Win Magazine and looking through the Win Magazine and seeing the matchups and the rankings and the scores and things like that. So I just think it's these duels are really good for the sport of wrestling. They're great for fan engagement. And having one that people look forward to is it's a good thing. It's good to be part of those type of events.
Have
So
you
this will
learned-
be your first in person?
Yes,
You've never been to a Bedlam duel?
I have not. No.
Okay.
Have you learned anything talking to your wrestlers about like what it's like going down to Norman or wrestling against WU?
You know, I just think it's just another match. You know, I think you don't do anything different just because there's a different name associated with the duel. We just are consistent in our preparation, consistent with our warm-up, what we do before matches, what we do after weigh-ins, the way we wrestle matches. I think things get sideways when you start changing what you're doing. You know, you don't change what you do. I think that's the value of us participating as a staff. You know, individually we participated in really big matches in our careers, you know, and you realize you start doing things different, your performance starts to change, you know. So there's going to be a lot of external things this week. We just got to focus on doing what we do, and what's going on in wrestling.
You mentioned OSU crowds kind of following you guys around Vegas. Has that surprised you, or were you kind of expecting that coming? Do you think that would have to build a little bit more, maybe?
Well, the one side of me is like, no, obviously the other side of me is, yeah, it's great to see that. But I think momentum is obviously a thing, and I think people are excited. The wrestling community, the wrestling world is excited about Oklahoma State wrestling right now, and that comes and goes. We just gotta stay fundamental and the things that we really believe and stay grounded in that stuff. That was my biggest piece of advice to the guys after this weekend was, yeah, we had a really good tournament, but we relatively haven't done anything. We just doing what we're going out and expecting to go do, and don't get too caught up in it. We got to turn around right back to work, the next day, and it's still relatively early in the season, so it's good. It's validation that we're doing some things right, but we still have a lot of things we got to improve on. So I think that's just understanding where we're at and where we want to go.
You've been asked about your development as a coach with this team and so forth. What's your development as coach, athlete been like with Wyatt so far, and how has it grown?
Yeah, I mean, this summer wrestling Wyatt was a lot easier than it is wrestling now, that's for sure. He just keeps getting better. He's getting better, he's stronger. I mean, he weighs 260 pounds. He's in great shape, he's healthy. Those are things in his past he wasn't. You kind of expressed not really having that stuff. The Air Force commitment, getting banged up and injured, or now it's just, he's serving his country, but in a little different fashion. Still represents the WCAP, and he gets to wrestle for Oklahoma State Wrestling, and it's just good to see that. You get guys sometimes get turned into their career and they're just doing what they do. He's still doing what he does really well, but he's improving every single week. He's got a great feel for wrestling. He's knowledgeable, he's excited, and I think you see as the match has gone on, he started to rely on a little bit more of the system, and that's what's going to take for him this year. He's a pretty fun guy to coach.
Weren't you like Navy brat or
Yeah.
Air Force or something?
My dad was in the Navy. Yeah.
Does that help you connect to him at all and kind of understanding some of the nuances with military and things like that?
Maybe. I was raised obviously that way. My dad was, he was pretty uptight. So it's but I think when you're raised in an environment like that, you either get more like that or you kind of loosen up. I'm probably a little more on the looser side, but I can understand and relate to things, and kind of get maybe a little idea of how Wyatt's wired and how to communicate with them. But that's not really from my past. That's just from getting to know Wyatt, spending time with him this summer, and obviously week to week. So, but it's our whole staff. I mean, Tyler is super involved with Wyatt. Thomas is involved. Jimmy's involved. So I mean, for us, it's very much a group collaborative effort, and we all communicate with the guys a little different. We all have different relationships with them, and we all can relate to them differently. I think that's what makes, hopefully, in my opinion, what we're doing, really unique.
You can kind of help us with that. I know he just walked through here, but he seems to be very squared away at times, and then he seems to be different than you might expect at times. Very fun-loving, kind of looser than you might expect a guy that went to the academy. Yeah,
I think our environment is we love what we're doing. We're smiling in practice. We're getting better. And Wyatt's very much, he's a leader in that category. He's got a smile on his face. He's a happy, excited kid. And he loves wrestling, and he's excited to go out there, and he's got a goal in mind. He wants to go out and kick some butt. And it's fun to watch him go do that.
Does that spread? I mean, you've got other new guys, Dean, transfers that have come in. Have they been kind of good for you in spreading that, since they're kind of I mean, this is their first year. They don't know the past here. They know you.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I mean, I think you got to, their past, like they've been pretty close to what they want to do, and they know exactly what they want to do, And I think for us, for our team, I think seeing that the confidence that they're wrestling with, and just the way that they're preparing and the way they're going about things, like that's contagious. So we talk about the momentum that builds at 125 and it builds up through heavyweight, and we feel really good at 125, we feel really good at heavyweight, and obviously just everything in between. And I just think it starts to become the expectation. This is what we're expecting to go do. We got to hold ourselves to a high standard. You don't go out and do awesome things by holding yourself to a low standard. You got to hold yourself to a high standard. You don't meet that every single time, and sometimes you just surpass it, and that's just the sport of wrestling. So, I think this weekend we met our standard. We fell short a couple times. We surpassed it a couple times, and now you just reset the bar. I think that's what, as a team, we're doing a good job of right now.
Are y'all, as a staff, still learning about these guys?
Learn all the time. All the time. I think as you get going more and you're in the trenches with them, you start to learn things you didn't know the week before. You watch them wrestle. Thomas talks about, we're collecting data, and we do it every single week, every single match, every time they warm up, asking them what are they thinking, and as you learn that more, you start to be able to help relate to them more. So, wrestling is I tell them all the time, wrestling is far from perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as perfect coaching. There's no such thing as perfect competing. It's a very imperfect sport. We're just kind of trying to find ways to get better.
Is there anything specific you feel like, big picture, is y'all are getting better at understanding about this team at this point? Or is it different for each guy?
Yeah, I think everybody's different. Our 10 guys that are wrestling and the other 35 guys on our team, they're all different, and it's just a balance of trying to help everybody move forward.
You mentioned approaching this as just another duel. Is that something you try to monitor just to make sure, because you do have guys that have been part of Oklahoma State for a while or even grew up here and maybe view Bedlam differently than other things? Is that something you're going to monitor with guys to make sure that they're staying focused this week?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question of focus. I think everybody's really focused right now. But you just get an idea of their body language and ask them what they're thinking and how they're doing, and that's just the communication element. Sometimes you won't really know if they step on the mat, and even then it's just, all right, well, things are going to happen. Things might not happen the way you go to the plan. All right, so what? Let's just get back to doing what we're doing.
Traditionally, Bedlam's been a home and home. We're not having it in Stillwater this year. Can you speak to what's going on there?
Yeah, they didn't want to come back and wrestle here. So, yeah, that's kind of pretty much what it was.
So the invite was out.
Yeah, it was on our calendar, So, but obviously they got to do what they feel like is best for their program, and, they wanted to get some other duels on the calendar, so I guess I can understand that.
Are there any rivalry moments from your wrestling career that stick out to you?
I don't know. They're just all fun matches. I think it's fun to wrestle in matches that mean something. So. But this is just a match during the season. I don't know if I ever really thought of matches as rivalries, one or the other. I just want to go out and score as many points as I could. You score as many points as I could for my team. So I think that's kind of the focus for our guys.
Did you have teammates that maybe bought into the rivalry a little bit more when you were in college, do you think?
I think we're probably making maybe a little too much out of it, but yeah, I think everyone values matches a little bit differently, and if you need a little external motivation to go out and wrestle, that's always a good thing, but I think ultimately everyone's pretty motivated, to go out and just wrestle the best that they can.
Anything else? All right.
Thanks.